13. Secret psychological facts about people. Wisdom for living. Stoicism. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. This powerful quote perfectly captures the essence of what we're discussing today on Stoic in Your Life. In this video, we'll dive into 13 secret psychological facts about people, insights that can reveal how deeply our emotions and thoughts shape our behavior, often in ways we don't fully realize. By understanding these truths and incorporating Stoic wisdom into your daily life, you can take greater control over your mind, your reactions, and ultimately, your happiness. The principles we'll explore today aren't just for reflection, they're tools for growth, helping you improve relationships, make wiser decisions, and find peace amidst life's challenges. Have you ever noticed how your emotions influence your choices? Share your experiences in the comments below, and let's start a conversation about how we can all apply these Stoic lessons for personal growth and a more fulfilled life. And if you find value in today's content, don't forget to like and subscribe for more wisdom to help guide your journey. Number 1. Gossip and spreading rumors. The first secret fact is one that holds more power than many of us realize: the detrimental effects of gossip and spreading rumors. Before we dive into this, let's remember a famous quote from Marcus Aurelius, a great Stoic philosopher. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. This reminds us to focus on building our character instead of being distracted by the flaws of others. Gossiping may seem harmless at first glance, but when we engage in it, we diminish not only the people we talk about, but also ourselves. It's easy to fall into the trap of discussing others behind their backs, especially when we feel insecure or unsure about our own position in life. However, a deeper understanding of psychology tells us that gossip reflects more about the person spreading it than the one it is about. It's often an unconscious attempt to elevate oneself by putting someone else down. The Stoics were clear about this. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." This means that our focus should remain on personal growth, rather than attempting to look good in the eyes of others by engaging in toxic behavior like gossiping. Think about modern life, whether it's at work, social gatherings, or even within family circles. The temptation to gossip arises in many situations. But what if, instead of indulging in negative talk, you redirected that energy towards self-improvement? After all, what others do or say is beyond your control, but how you react and the choices you make are entirely within your grasp. In today's fast-paced world, avoiding gossip might make you stand out, but it also earns you respect. People trust those who are known to be discreet and honest, and this trust can open doors in relationships and career opportunities. To illustrate this, picture a group of colleagues at work, where one person always refrains from gossip. Over time, this individual becomes the person others turn to for serious advice and support, simply because they've proven themselves to be reliable and trustworthy. As we explore these psychological facts, it's important to reflect on the Stoic idea that we should strive to be the best version of ourselves, regardless of external pressures or judgments. Socrates said, "Strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, weak minds discuss people." So, as we consider how gossip can erode trust and respect in any relationship, we are reminded that focusing on ideas and self-development will always lead to greater fulfillment. The key is in choosing our words and thoughts wisely. By understanding the power of gossip and choosing not to engage, we can elevate our own lives and build stronger, more meaningful connections with others. This first psychological fact might seem simple, but its implications are profound. Not only does it affect how others perceive us, but it also influences how we see ourselves. When we stop wasting time on trivial matters, we make room for more valuable, life-enhancing conversations and pursuits. Number 2. Hasty words. We'll explore another powerful psychological fact that many of us tend to overlook: the consequences of hasty words. It's easy to blurt out what's on our minds when we're upset, excited, or in a rush. But the Stoics teach us the importance of taking a step back and thinking before we speak. As Epictetus wisely said, "First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak." Words have weight, and once they leave your mouth, you can't take them back. In today's world, where quick responses and instant communication are the norm, we're often tempted to react immediately, whether through text, email, or face-to-face. But how often have you said something in the heat of the moment only to regret it later? That's the danger of hasty words. They can damage relationships, hurt feelings, and create misunderstandings that are hard to undo. Think about your own experiences. Maybe there was a time when you said something to a friend or loved one that you didn't mean, and it caused unnecessary tension or even a falling out. These moments remind us that words carry a lot more power than we often realize. Once spoken, they can't be erased, and they often linger in the minds of others far longer than we intend. In modern life, this issue becomes even more relevant because of how connected we are. Social media, emails, and instant messaging have made it easy to communicate, but they've also made it easy to fire off a message without fully considering its impact. A quick tweet or a rash comment can spark conflict or misunderstanding that spirals out of control. You might relate to a time when you fired off a quick response in a work email, thinking you were right, only to later realize you misunderstood the situation or came across too harshly. The result? You had to do damage control, and that's time and energy wasted. This concept also extends to our personal lives. Consider a couple having an argument. In the heat of the moment, one partner says something hurtful, and even if an apology comes later, the sting of those words lingers. Words can build or destroy relationships in ways we don't always expect, and it's why taking a moment to pause before speaking can make all the difference. Here's where Stoicism becomes incredibly practical. It teaches us to pause, reflect, and consider the impact of our words. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This includes the power to control your speech. If we pause before speaking, we give ourselves a chance to think rationally rather than react emotionally, and that's the foundation of better communication and stronger relationships. Let's apply this to a real-world scenario. Imagine a manager under pressure at work, dealing with multiple deadlines, and a team member comes to them with a question. Instead of taking a moment to process the request, the manager snaps, frustrated with the workload. The employee walks away feeling undervalued, and this brief moment of impatience sets the tone for future interactions. The damage, though minor, starts to build, and over time, it may lead to a breakdown in communication or trust. If the manager had paused and taken a breath before responding, the outcome could have been very different. This is the essence of what we mean by controlling hasty words. The ability to slow down, reflect, and speak with purpose rather than from emotion. How often do we find ourselves in situations where we regret what we've said, only to wish we could take it back? When we allow Stoicism to guide our interactions, we become more mindful of our speech, and in turn we foster better relationships both personally and professionally. By avoiding hasty words, we create space for understanding and respect to flourish. Ask yourself, how many times could a conflict have been avoided if you had simply taken a moment to think before speaking? This is a powerful lesson not just for us as individuals, but for society as a whole. In an era where communication happens at lightning speed, the discipline of thoughtful speech is more valuable than ever. The next time you feel the urge to respond quickly, whether in a personal argument or a professional email, pause. Take a breath. Think through what you want to say, and consider the long-term impact of your words. The Stoics knew that mastering your speech is key to mastering your relationships, and that is as true now as it was in ancient times. Remember, better to trip with the feet than with the tongue. Your words are one of your most powerful tools. Use them wisely. Number 3. Intimate financial details. When it comes to discussing financial matters, it's important to understand that revealing intimate financial details can sometimes have unintended consequences. In fact, one of the lesser-known psychological facts about human behavior is that sharing too much about your personal finances can affect how people perceive you and how they treat you. Stoicism teaches us the value of discretion and balance, reminding us to focus on what is within our control, our actions, our character, rather than seeking validation or support through external means like money. As Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." This wisdom is as relevant today as it was in ancient times, especially when it comes to how we handle our personal financial information. When you openly share details about your financial situation, whether it's boasting about a recent windfall, revealing your debt, or disclosing your earnings, you unintentionally create a dynamic where people may judge you based on your financial status rather than who you are as a person. In a world where material wealth often equates to success, people may start viewing you through the lens of your financial disclosures. This can create unnecessary stress or even strain relationships. Think about how different social circles react when someone talks about their money openly. Some may feel envy, while others may see you as a resource or someone to impress. This creates an imbalance in your interactions, making them more about your financial standing than genuine connection. Even in modern life, where transparency and openness are often celebrated, there's wisdom in holding back when it comes to intimate financial details. Do you really want people to see you for what you have rather than who you are? Take, for example, someone who is navigating the complex dynamics of friendships or even romantic relationships. By revealing too much about their financial successes or struggles, they may inadvertently shift the focus of those relationships. If you're constantly discussing money, whether it's talking about the latest promotion, your investments, or how you're struggling with debt, there's a good chance that these conversations will influence the way others relate to you. In friendships, it can create an unequal dynamic where someone feels inferior or superior based on their financial position. In romantic relationships, it can lead to misunderstandings about priorities or expectations, or even foster dependency, which may not align with the balance needed for a healthy relationship. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This applies perfectly to how we approach our financial discussions with others. Sharing intimate financial details can also open the door to judgment and unsolicited advice. How often have you mentioned something about your finances to someone, only to have them respond with unasked-for opinions or judgmental comments? Whether they think you're not saving enough, or they feel entitled to give you advice on how to handle your money. Revealing too much can invite unwelcome intrusion into your personal affairs. Everyone has their own financial priorities and strategies, and what works for one person may not work for another. This is why it's important to practice discretion and keep certain details to yourself. After all, what others think of your financial decisions is beyond your control. Why give them the power to influence how you feel about your own financial choices? The Stoic principle of focusing only on what you can control is crucial here. You can't control people's judgments, but you can control what you share with them. Now, think about modern society. Social media has made it easier than ever to share both successes and failures, including financial ones. Whether it's flaunting wealth through expensive vacations and luxury purchases, or discussing hardships and debt, we see it all on platforms like Instagram or Facebook. While this level of openness can foster community in some cases, it can also lead to feelings of inadequacy or envy in others, and further, it risks oversharing aspects of your life that may be better kept private. Sharing intimate financial details in these public forums can also make you a target for criticism, or worse, exploitation. Ask yourself, do you want to be judged by what you own or by who you are? And more importantly, what do you hope to gain by sharing this information? Financial discussions have a time and place, and it's important to know when it's appropriate to discuss them. For instance, when seeking professional financial advice or working with a close partner on joint financial goals, transparency can be crucial. But outside of those contexts, sharing intimate financial details can lead to unnecessary complications. Your financial situation is deeply personal, and not everyone needs to know every detail of it. You should guard this information, sharing it only with those who have earned your trust and who have a genuine need to know. This brings us back to the Stoic idea of focusing on what truly matters: your character, your actions, and your inner strength. As Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." The less you rely on external validation for your financial standing, the more control you have over your own happiness and peace of mind. What lesson can we take from this? Simply put, it's important to recognize the power and potential consequences of revealing intimate financial details. Not everything needs to be shared, and by keeping certain aspects of your life private, you retain control over how people perceive and interact with you. Instead of focusing on financial status, shift your attention to cultivating meaningful relationships built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. How do you want to be remembered? As someone defined by their bank account, or as someone who offered wisdom, kindness, and integrity? This is the core message of Stoicism: to live a life focused on virtue rather than external measures of success. Take a moment to reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever shared more than you intended about your finances, only to regret it later? The next time you find yourself in a situation where you're tempted to discuss money, pause and consider whether it's truly necessary. Remember that your worth is not determined by your financial situation, but by your character and how you treat others. As the Stoics taught us, the most valuable things in life are those that money can't buy: wisdom, friendship, and inner peace. Thank you for being part of today's video. Before we move on, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude for your support. It's a pleasure to have you in our community. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, or simply say, "I am a newbie," if you're just joining us, or "I am Stoic," if you've been with us for a while. Your engagement motivates us to keep creating content that inspires. Let's continue this journey together, shall we? Number 4. Provocations. We're diving into one of the most overlooked psychological traps that people often fall into: provocations. How often do we let someone else's words or actions get under our skin and provoke a response we later regret? Whether it's a snide comment at work, an insensitive remark from a friend, or even an argument with a loved one, these moments of provocation can cause us to lose control of our emotions. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This powerful quote reminds us that no matter what happens externally, the true battle lies within: how we choose to react. In modern life, provocations are all around us, especially in our highly connected world. Social media platforms, for example, have become breeding grounds for arguments, misunderstandings, and provocations. You might post something you believe is completely harmless, only to find yourself in a heated online debate that escalates quickly. But the Stoics teach us a different approach: the power of self-control, and the wisdom to recognize that we cannot always control what others say or do, but we can control how we respond. When we react hastily to provocations, we often give our power away. It might feel satisfying in the moment to lash out or respond with anger, but this satisfaction is fleeting and often leaves us feeling worse in the long run. Think about a time when you were provoked, maybe at work or in a personal relationship, and instead of remaining calm, you reacted emotionally. What was the outcome? Most likely, it wasn't positive. By allowing someone else's words or actions to dictate your response, you hand over control of your emotions to them. This is why Stoicism emphasizes the importance of maintaining equanimity in the face of provocation. As Epictetus put it, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This advice is timeless and speaks to the core of human behavior, reminding us that true strength comes from within. Let's look at a modern example: Picture yourself in a work meeting where a colleague criticizes your idea in front of others. In that moment, it's easy to feel embarrassed, angry, or defensive. You might be tempted to snap back or argue, but what if instead you paused and took a deep breath? What if, rather than reacting with emotion, you responded with calmness and reason? This is the Stoic way, choosing your response carefully rather than letting the heat of the moment control you. By doing so, you maintain your composure, and more importantly, you retain your dignity and respect from others. In today's fast-paced world, this skill is invaluable, especially in high-pressure environments like the workplace or during tense family gatherings. The ability to remain calm in the face of provocations is a mark of emotional intelligence and maturity. But provocations don't just occur in face-to-face interactions. In our digital age, we are constantly bombarded with messages, opinions, and comments that can provoke us. Social media, as mentioned earlier, is a prime example of this. One moment you're scrolling through your feed, and the next you see a post or comment that challenges your beliefs or irritates you. How do you react? Do you jump into the comment section to argue? Or do you scroll past, knowing that engaging will only feed into the negativity? The Stoics would advise the latter. As Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." Freedom, in this sense, comes from the ability to not be enslaved by our emotions or the provocations of others. It's about being brave enough to rise above pettiness and choose peace over conflict. Now let's connect this to your personal life. Maybe you've experienced provocation in your relationships. Perhaps a partner or close friend said something that hurt or upset you, and in the moment you reacted with anger or frustration. While it's natural to feel hurt, the Stoics would encourage you to step back and ask yourself, does this situation truly deserve the emotional energy I'm giving it? Is this reaction helping or hurting the relationship? When we approach provocations with a Stoic mindset, we can begin to see them for what they are, temporary disturbances that do not have to define our actions or emotions. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can respond with thoughtfulness and clarity, leading to healthier and more constructive outcomes. Here's an open-ended question for you. How would your life improve if you mastered the ability to remain calm in the face of provocations? This is not just a rhetorical question, but an invitation to reflect on how much of your emotional energy is spent reacting to things that are ultimately beyond your control. By learning to stay composed in challenging situations, you gain a tremendous amount of power over your own life. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming the master of your responses. Provocations are a part of life. You can't avoid them, but you can control how you respond to them. The next time someone tries to provoke you, whether it's through a harsh word, a challenging opinion, or a frustrating situation, take a moment to pause. Remember the wisdom of the Stoics. True power comes from controlling your mind, not the events around you. By choosing to respond with patience and calmness, you not only protect your peace of mind but also gain the respect and admiration of those around you. As the philosopher Seneca reminds us, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. So, take that pause and let the storm of emotion pass before deciding how to act. This is the path to wisdom, strength, and ultimately, a more peaceful and fulfilling life. Number 5. Privacy on social media. In today's world, social media plays an undeniable role in how we present ourselves, interact with others, and even shape our identities. But there's a secret psychological fact about people that often goes overlooked. Sharing too much about your personal life on social media can actually weaken your sense of self, erode your privacy, and create unintended consequences. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus wisely said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." This means that we should not be too concerned with the approval or judgment of others, especially on platforms that encourage oversharing for validation. But how often do we find ourselves caught up in the need to share every detail of our lives online, from what we had for dinner to intimate moments with family or friends? In doing so, we not only expose ourselves to judgment, but also risk giving away our sense of control over how others perceive us. Privacy on social media is more than just about protecting personal information. It's about preserving your sense of self, your boundaries, and your peace of mind. In modern life, the temptation to overshare is strong. The more we reveal online, the more likes and comments we receive, and this attention can feel like validation. It gives us a dopamine boost, making us feel seen and acknowledged. But what happens when we share too much? When we put our every thought, experience, and emotion on display, we invite judgment, criticism, and sometimes even envy or resentment. Think about the last time you posted something that was personal to you, perhaps a significant achievement, an emotional moment, or even something trivial. How did it feel when people commented on it? Were there any negative or unsolicited opinions that made you regret sharing? This is the downside of social media. Once you post something, it's out there for everyone to see and interpret in their own way, and not everyone will see things from your perspective. Take, for example, the story of a young professional who shared every step of his career journey on social media. At first, it was exciting. He got recognition, people applauded his success, and it seemed like a great way to network and build his personal brand. But over time, he noticed something troubling. The more he shared, the more people began to critique him, offer unsolicited advice, or compare their own careers to his. What was once a source of pride became a point of vulnerability. His privacy was diminished, and he began to feel pressure to constantly update his followers, not out of joy, but out of obligation. This is the trap of oversharing. It turns personal moments into public performance. The Stoics would argue that this constant need for validation and attention distracts us from our true purpose and inner peace. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It's a reminder that we should focus on what we can control, which includes how much we choose to share about our personal lives. In the context of social media, privacy is power. The less you reveal about yourself, the more control you have over how others see you and, more importantly, how you see yourself. When you keep certain aspects of your life private, you protect yourself from the pressures of external validation and the judgment of others. You allow yourself the space to grow and reflect without the noise of social media influencing your thoughts and actions. This doesn't mean you should never share anything online. There's value in connecting with others, sharing insights, and celebrating life's moments. But the key is balance. What parts of your life do you want to keep sacred, away from the public eye? What are the things that are better left shared with close friends or family in private conversations, rather than broadcasted for all to see? Now, think about your own social media habits. How often do you post personal updates or share details about your private life? Have you ever paused to consider how much of yourself you're putting out there for others to see and judge? In an age where everything seems to be shared online, it's worth reflecting on the value of holding some things back. Privacy is not just about protecting your data or information. It's about protecting your sense of self, your emotional well-being, and your peace of mind. As Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." When we overshare, we open ourselves up to imagined fears, judgments, and criticisms that may not even exist, but still weigh heavily on our minds. Let's talk about the long-term impact of oversharing. When we continuously share intimate details about our lives, we also risk eroding the boundaries between our public and private selves. This can lead to emotional exhaustion, a sense of vulnerability, and even anxiety. Over time, you may find yourself constantly checking your social media profiles, worrying about how others perceive you, or feeling the need to curate an idealized version of your life that doesn't reflect your true self. This is why it's essential to create boundaries, to decide what is worth sharing and what is best kept private. You don't owe the world access to every corner of your life. By being selective about what you post, you regain control over your narrative and preserve your peace of mind. Here's an open-ended question to consider. How would your life change if you shared less on social media? Would you feel more at peace, less anxious, or more connected to the people who truly matter? This is not to suggest that social media is inherently bad. It's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used wisely or recklessly. The Stoics remind us to live in accordance with nature and reason, and part of that involves making thoughtful decisions about how we engage with the world around us, including our digital lives. The next time you feel the urge to post something personal on social media, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, is this something I truly want to share with the world, or am I seeking validation? What value does this post add to my life or the lives of others? By practicing discretion and protecting your privacy, you not only maintain control over your own life, but you also cultivate a sense of inner peace that comes from living authentically, without the need for constant approval. As the Stoic philosophers teach us, true strength comes from within, and the less you rely on external validation, the more resilient and centered you will become. Number 6. Lying. Let's talk about one of the most destructive behaviors that many people fall into: lying. Lying, even when it seems harmless or small, can create a ripple effect that damages trust, relationships, and even our own integrity. The moment we lie, we create a distance between ourselves and others because trust, once broken, is incredibly difficult to rebuild. Seneca once said, "A liar is always lavish of oaths." This reminds us that once we start down the path of dishonesty, it often takes more lies to cover up the initial one, leading us deeper into a trap of our own making. Lying can start small, maybe to avoid hurting someone's feelings or to escape a difficult situation, but over time, it becomes easier to lie than to face the truth, even when the truth might be the healthier option for both us and the people around us. The issue with lying is that it's not just about the immediate moment. It's about the long-term consequences. Once you lie, you must carry the burden of maintaining that lie. It might seem easier in the short term, but in the long term it often leads to stress, anxiety, and complications. The truth always has a way of coming out, and when it does, the damage is usually far greater than if you had just been honest from the start. In our daily lives, we've all seen how lies, no matter how innocent they may seem, can spiral out of control. Think about it. Have you ever lied to avoid a confrontation or to spare someone's feelings, only to find yourself in a worse situation later because of that lie? Perhaps it led to misunderstanding, mistrust, or even the end of a relationship. The Stoics, who deeply valued virtue and honesty, remind us to avoid these traps. As Epictetus said, "Whoever is going to listen to the truth must first be prepared to accept being wrong." Sometimes speaking the truth may feel uncomfortable, but it's far better to deal with the consequences of honesty than the fallout of deceit. Let's bring this into the context of modern life. Social media has made it easier than ever to create false versions of ourselves. We often see people presenting the best, most polished version of their lives online, whether it's through edited photos, exaggerated stories, or curated lifestyles that may not reflect reality. While this might not seem like outright lying, it creates a distorted image that others might believe, and in some cases, it can even cause the person sharing this false image to feel detached from their real self. What happens when you constantly portray a version of yourself that isn't true to who you are? You start feeling disconnected from your own identity, and in turn, this affects your self-worth. How many of us have looked at social media profiles feeling inadequate because we believe others are living better, more successful lives than us, only to later realize that much of what we see is exaggerated or filtered? This kind of deception, whether it's intentional or not, contributes to a culture of dishonesty that erodes trust not only in others, but in ourselves. Lying also has a way of undermining our personal growth. When we lie, especially to ourselves, we deny the opportunity for self-reflection and improvement. It's easy to convince ourselves that we're doing well when we're really struggling, or that a problem isn't as big as it seems when in reality, it's weighing us down. One of the core principles of Stoicism is the practice of self-honesty, facing your challenges head-on and taking responsibility for your actions. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." This means that instead of lying to ourselves about our shortcomings, we must have the courage to accept them and work on becoming better. Lying might give temporary relief, but it holds us back from becoming the person we're truly capable of being. Let's reflect on a real-life example. Consider a scenario where someone, in an effort to avoid conflict at work, lies to their boss about the progress of a project. In the short term, this lie might seem like a smart move. It avoids a difficult conversation or confrontation. But what happens when the deadline approaches and the truth comes out? The trust between the employee and the boss is damaged, and the reputation of the employee is tarnished. This situation could have been avoided entirely with a bit of honesty up front. Sure, it may have been uncomfortable to admit that the project wasn't going as planned, but transparency could have led to solutions, understanding, and maintained trust. How often do we find ourselves in similar situations, where we feel compelled to lie to protect ourselves from embarrassment, criticism, or discomfort? And how often do we later regret it? Let me ask you, how would your life change if you committed to absolute honesty, both with others and with yourself? Would you feel more at peace, knowing you don't have to maintain a web of lies or cover up stories? Would your relationships improve, built on a foundation of trust rather than suspicion? Would you grow faster, personally and professionally, because you are open to confronting the truths that need to be addressed? These are powerful questions that can guide us toward a life of greater integrity. Lying may seem like an easy way out in the moment, but it leads to long-term complications that damage not only your relationships, but also your sense of self. The Stoics teach us that honesty and integrity are at the core of a virtuous life. Even when the truth is hard to face, it's always the better path to take. As the philosopher Aristotle said, "The least initial deviation from the truth is multiplied later 1,000-fold." This means that small lies today can lead to much larger consequences tomorrow. So, the next time you're tempted to lie, whether to avoid conflict, spare someone's feelings, or protect your ego, take a moment to reflect. Is this lie truly worth the cost? Would it not be better to embrace honesty, even if it's uncomfortable, and live with the peace that comes from knowing you've acted with integrity? Number 7. Empty commitments. Let's talk about something that may seem harmless at first but can have serious consequences in our personal and professional lives: empty commitments. These are the promises we make, either to others or ourselves, that we don't actually plan to keep or that we know we lack the time or resources to follow through on. Whether it's telling a friend we'll help them move, agreeing to a work project we can't take on, or even setting personal goals that we aren't truly committed to, empty commitments create a cycle of disappointment and erode trust. As Epictetus wisely said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." In other words, don't commit to anything unless you are sure you can see it through, because your word and actions should align. This is especially important when it comes to maintaining integrity and authenticity in our modern lives, where overcommitting has become common in both personal and professional settings. Many of us feel pressured to say yes because we don't want to disappoint others or be seen as unhelpful, but over time, these hollow promises lead to frustration, stress, and ultimately a loss of credibility. When we consistently make empty commitments, whether to others or ourselves, we are inadvertently setting ourselves up for failure. Think about a time when you agreed to take on a project at work even though you knew you were already overloaded. At first, it may have seemed manageable, but as the deadline approached and other responsibilities piled up, the pressure became too much. Maybe you had to rush through it, delivering subpar work. Or perhaps you missed the deadline entirely, leading to disappointment and possibly even damaged relationships with colleagues or clients. This is a clear example of how empty commitments can backfire, causing more harm than if you had simply been honest about your limitations from the start. The Stoic approach would advise us to carefully consider our capacities before making promises. As Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." By taking on too much, we are not using our time wisely, and instead of accomplishing anything meaningful, we spread ourselves too thin, leading to stress and burnout. Now let's think about how this applies to personal life. How often do we tell friends or family members, "I'll call you tomorrow," or "Let's get together soon," only to forget or never follow through? These may seem like small, inconsequential promises, but over time, they can lead to hurt feelings and eroded trust. The people in your life will start to see you as unreliable, even if your intentions were good. The key is understanding that a promise, no matter how small, creates an expectation. When that expectation is not met, it creates disappointment, and too many disappointments can damage even the strongest relationships. Have you ever experienced this yourself? Maybe someone promised to be there for you or support you, but when the time came, they were nowhere to be found. It doesn't feel good, and it certainly doesn't inspire trust. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This means that rather than making promises or commitments we can't keep, we should focus on being reliable, dependable, and true to our word. Let's apply this to modern life, where the pace is faster than ever, and the pressure to multitask and overcommit is relentless. Whether it's in the workplace, where saying yes to every opportunity might seem like the path to success, or in our personal lives, where we feel obligated to please everyone, the temptation to make empty commitments is constant. But what would happen if we became more mindful of the promises we make? What if we paused before agreeing to something, asking ourselves, "Do I really have the time and energy to fulfill this commitment?" By doing this, we not only protect our own well-being, but also foster more meaningful and honest relationships with others. When people know they can trust you to follow through, they respect your boundaries, and your word holds more weight. Consider a scenario where a business leader makes a grand promise to his team about implementing new initiatives, knowing full well that the resources and time to execute them are lacking. Initially, the team may feel excited or motivated by these promises, but as weeks pass and nothing materializes, that excitement turns into frustration. Over time, the leader's credibility diminishes, and the team becomes disengaged, realizing that the promises were empty from the start. This isn't just about leadership, it's about the impact empty commitments have on any relationship, whether personal or professional. Every promise is an opportunity to build trust or to break it, and once trust is broken, it's hard to regain. So why do we often find ourselves making commitments we can't keep? Is it out of a desire to please others, or perhaps because we overestimate our own abilities? Understanding the reasons behind our behavior is the first step toward breaking the cycle of overpromising and underdelivering. Here's a question for you. How often do you find yourself saying yes when you really want to say no? What would change in your life if you were more selective with the commitments you make? This is not about becoming unhelpful or refusing to support others. It's about being honest and realistic with yourself and the people around you. The Stoic philosophers teach us that self-awareness and integrity are crucial to living a fulfilling life. By aligning our words with our actions, we maintain a sense of authenticity that not only benefits us but strengthens our relationships with others. Empty commitments are more than just unkept promises. They erode trust, create unnecessary stress, and damage relationships. The next time you are about to commit to something, take a moment to consider whether you can truly follow through. Ask yourself, am I making this promise because I genuinely want to and can keep it, or am I doing it out of obligation or a desire to please? Being mindful of your commitments not only protects your own well-being but also enhances your relationships with others. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus reminds us, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This means that before making promises, we should first listen to ourselves, our capacity, our time, and our intentions, so that we only commit to what we can truly deliver. Thank you for being here with us in today's video. Here's something to think about. Which psychological fact resonated with you the most, and how do you see it impacting your daily life? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If you're not sure what to comment, simply write, "I learned something new today," or "I am a Stoic." Your engagement means a lot to us. Number 8. Mocking others. Mocking others, while often seen as a way to bond or even as lighthearted fun, can have significant and lasting consequences. When we mock someone, we diminish their humanity, even if it's done in jest or without malicious intent. Think of the last time you were mocked or made fun of. How did it make you feel? Chances are, even if it seemed trivial, the sting of being laughed at lingered longer than you expected. Mockery, at its core, is a form of judgment, a way of asserting superiority over someone else, even if only for a moment. Epictetus said, "What upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about these things." When we mock others, we are projecting our judgments onto them, often without fully understanding the complexity of their situation or their emotions. In doing so, we not only hurt them, but also reveal a lack of empathy and compassion within ourselves. In modern life, mocking others has unfortunately become normalized, especially in digital spaces like social media. It's easy to make a quick comment or post a meme at someone's expense, all from the safety of anonymity or distance. But the impact is very real. What starts as a seemingly harmless joke can spiral into bullying, exclusion, or worse, deep emotional scars for the person on the receiving end. We've seen this play out in schools, workplaces, and even within friendships. One moment of mockery can shift the dynamics of a relationship, causing tension and distrust where there was once camaraderie. Marcus Aurelius, in his Reflections, wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." This Stoic wisdom urges us to rise above petty behaviors like mockery, choosing instead to embody kindness, patience, and understanding. Let's look at how this manifests in our day-to-day lives. Consider a work environment where one colleague often makes sarcastic comments about another's performance or habits. Even if it's framed as a joke, over time, those words chip away at the person's confidence and make them feel belittled. They may start doubting themselves, feeling like an outsider, or worse, becoming demotivated and disengaged. What may have seemed like casual humor at first can lead to serious emotional harm. Now, let's flip the perspective. Have you ever been the one making these comments? It's important to pause and reflect on how our words affect others, especially in moments where we might be trying to fit in or seem clever. Is it really worth it to get a laugh at the expense of someone else's dignity? This issue also plays out heavily in social media. How often do we see celebrities or public figures being mocked for their appearance, opinions, or actions? People share memes, comment on posts, or join in on threads where someone is being ridiculed, often forgetting that there's a real person behind the screen. It may feel harmless, but the collective force of these small, mocking moments can have profound effects. For the person being mocked, it can lead to feelings of isolation, depression, and anxiety. In a world that encourages quick wit and sharp commentary, it's easy to fall into the trap of mockery without considering the consequences. But here's the question. What if, instead of mocking, we chose to understand? What if we approached others with empathy rather than judgment? How would that change the way we interact with people, both online and in real life? Mocking others also reflects back on us. When we engage in this behavior, we show more about our own insecurities than we do about the person we're mocking. Often, we mock what we don't understand or what we feel threatened by. This behavior can be a way of deflecting attention from our own flaws or discomfort. As Seneca said, "What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears." Life is challenging enough as it is, So why add to the difficulty by tearing others down with mockery? Instead, Stoicism teaches us to approach life with equanimity, understanding that everyone is going through their own struggles, and we have a choice in how we treat those around us. Let's consider a modern example. Think of someone in your circle, perhaps a friend or colleague, who is often the target of jokes or mockery. Maybe they laugh along, pretending it doesn't bother them, but deep down it probably does. Over time, these small cuts can erode their self-esteem and damage the trust they have in others. Now imagine how different things would be if, instead of joining in or remaining silent, you spoke up and redirected the conversation towards something more positive. This small act of kindness can create a ripple effect, changing the dynamic of that relationship and promoting a more supportive and respectful environment. The Stoics teach us that true strength lies in controlling our actions and reactions, not in belittling others for a temporary sense of superiority. Mocking others is not just harmful to the person being mocked, it's harmful to the person doing the mocking as well. It lowers us to a place where we seek validation by tearing others down, rather than building ourselves and others up. When we make mockery a habit, we miss opportunities for genuine connection, growth, and understanding. Instead of focusing on someone else's perceived flaws or mistakes, we should focus on our own development, as Marcus Aurelius advised. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Rather than spending energy on judging or mocking others, invest that energy in becoming a better version of yourself. Mocking others may seem like a quick way to get a laugh or fit in, but it comes at a cost, both to the person being mocked and to yourself. The next time you find yourself tempted to mock someone, whether in person or online, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, is this how I want to contribute to the world? Am I building others up, or am I tearing them down? By choosing empathy, kindness, and understanding over mockery, we not only improve the lives of those around us, but we also enrich our own lives. Remember, as Epictetus said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Instead of mocking, let's listen, understand, and uplift. The world already has enough judgment. What it needs is more compassion and wisdom. Number 9. Respect for beliefs and religion. Let's dive into a topic that holds incredible significance in our relationships and interactions with others. Respect for beliefs and religion. In a world that is increasingly diverse, both in terms of culture and belief systems, it's more important than ever to practice understanding and tolerance. No matter what your personal beliefs may be, recognizing and respecting the beliefs of others is a cornerstone of building meaningful relationships and fostering a sense of community. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This powerful reminder encourages us to be mindful of the way we approach differences, especially when it comes to matters of faith. When we allow ourselves to be open-minded and respectful of others' beliefs, we enrich not only their lives, but our own, expanding our understanding of the world and our place within it. In today's fast-paced and often polarized society, it's easy to dismiss or even mock the beliefs of others, particularly when they differ from our own. But in doing so, we miss an opportunity to grow. Beliefs, especially those tied to religion, are deeply personal and often central to a person's identity. Disrespecting or ridiculing someone's beliefs can feel like a direct attack on who they are at their core. Consider how you would feel if someone mocked or belittled something you held sacred. It would not only hurt, but also create a barrier between you and that person. Epictetus reminds us, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." This is a lesson in humility, approaching the beliefs of others with an open heart, willing to learn and understand, even if we don't agree. By doing so, we cultivate stronger, more respectful connections. Think about how respect for differing beliefs plays out in modern life, whether it's in the workplace, with friends, or within your own family. You've likely encountered people whose beliefs differ from yours. How do you handle these situations? Do you listen with the intention of understanding, or do you quickly dismiss their perspective because it doesn't align with your own? Respect doesn't mean you have to adopt or agree with someone else's beliefs. It simply means recognizing their right to hold those beliefs and treating them with dignity. In fact, one of the most valuable things we can offer others is our willingness to engage in conversations about what they believe, without judgment or condescension. This is where true connection happens, when we step outside of our own worldview to explore another's with curiosity and respect. Now, let's explore a modern example of this. Imagine working in a diverse office where people from various backgrounds and religions come together every day. One of your colleagues follows a particular faith that requires certain dietary restrictions and regular prayer breaks. Instead of finding this inconvenient or odd, what if you approach the situation with respect and curiosity? You might ask them more about their practices, not to critique, but to better understand. This act of simple, respectful inquiry can go a long way in building bridges and making others feel valued and seen. On the flip side, if you dismiss or ignore these differences, you not only distance yourself from that person, but also miss out on an opportunity to learn something new and expand your worldview. It's important to note that respect for others' beliefs doesn't require you to compromise your own values. Stoicism teaches us the importance of staying true to ourselves while also being compassionate and understanding toward others. Marcus Aurelius said, "Live a good life. If there are gods and they are just, then they will not care how devout you have been, but will welcome you based on the virtues you have lived by." This quote highlights the idea that our character, our kindness, and our actions define us more than our specific beliefs or religious practices. By treating others with respect, regardless of their faith or lack thereof, we are living in alignment with these virtues. Here's a question for you. How often do you encounter someone whose beliefs challenge your own? And when this happens, do you respond with respect and curiosity, or do you feel the need to defend your position and dismiss theirs? These moments offer us a chance to reflect on how we handle differences and whether we are truly embodying the virtues of understanding and respect that we admire in others. It's easy to respect those who share our views, but the real challenge and opportunity for growth comes when we engage with those who think differently. In an increasingly interconnected world, our ability to coexist peacefully with people of different beliefs is not just a personal virtue, but a societal necessity. Disrespect for others' religious or spiritual beliefs can lead to division, conflict, and even violence. On the other hand, practicing respect can bring about harmony, understanding, and stronger communities. It's important to remember that every belief system, whether religious or not, is rooted in an individual's experiences, culture, and personal journey. By respecting that, we acknowledge the depth and complexity of each person's life, rather than reducing them to mere labels based on their beliefs. At the end of the day, respecting others' beliefs is not just about being polite or politically correct. It's about living in alignment with a deeper sense of compassion and understanding. As Seneca said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." This includes being kind in the way we approach differences in belief. When we treat others' beliefs with respect, we create an environment where everyone feels safe to be themselves. We also set an example for others to follow, fostering a culture of mutual respect and understanding. The next time you find yourself in a conversation where someone's beliefs differ from your own, take a moment to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, am I listening to understand, or am I preparing to defend my own position? By choosing to listen and respect, you open the door to deeper connection, greater empathy, and a more peaceful interaction. Remember, the Stoics taught us that we cannot control others, but we can control how we respond. And by responding with respect for others' beliefs, we not only strengthen our relationships but also enrich our own lives in ways we might not expect. Number 10. Smart handling of dissatisfactions or personal complaints. Let's now talk about a critical aspect of life that is often overlooked but can significantly impact our relationships, career, and personal peace: how we handle dissatisfactions or personal complaints. We've all been there. Something doesn't go our way, or someone fails to meet our expectations, and the frustration builds up. The way we choose to express this dissatisfaction can either strengthen relationships or erode trust and respect. The Stoics offer us timeless wisdom on this front. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This quote is key when it comes to dealing with complaints. We often cannot control the things that dissatisfy us, but we can control how we react. Instead of letting our frustrations spill out in ways that harm our relationships or taint our reputation, we can learn to manage them wisely, constructively, and with a sense of purpose. Think about a situation at work where a colleague or project didn't meet your expectations. Maybe they delivered late, or the quality wasn't up to par. The temptation to immediately express frustration is strong, but this is where the Stoic approach can make a difference. Rather than reacting impulsively, take a step back and ask yourself, what can I control in this situation? Instead of lashing out or criticizing the person, consider approaching the issue with a solution-oriented mindset. A calm conversation that addresses the problem without pointing fingers is far more productive and helps maintain respect and professionalism. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." This speaks to the idea that much of our dissatisfaction stems from unmet expectations and desires, but by reframing how we view those situations, we can handle them with grace and maturity. Dissatisfactions are not just limited to the workplace. In personal relationships, from friendships to romantic partnerships, there will inevitably be moments where someone disappoints you or fails to live up to your standards. How you handle these moments can make or break the relationship. Instead of expressing complaints in a way that accuses or blames the other person, focus on communication that encourages understanding and growth. For example, instead of saying, "You never listen to me," which puts the other person on the defensive, try, "I feel unheard when I express my thoughts." This slight shift in language can change the entire dynamic of the conversation, making it more about expressing your feelings than attacking the other person. By handling complaints thoughtfully, you not only address the issue but also strengthen the relationship. Consider how often we vent about minor frustrations in daily life. Maybe the service at a restaurant wasn't up to your expectations, or the traffic was worse than usual. While these are valid irritations, dwelling on them or complaining endlessly doesn't change the situation. It just adds negativity to your mindset and the atmosphere around you. Marcus Aurelius taught, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." By focusing on the things you can't change, you're only amplifying dissatisfaction in your life. Instead, practice letting go of the small irritations and choosing not to complain about things that don't really matter in the long run. Save your energy for the things that truly deserve your attention, and for complaints that, when expressed constructively, can lead to positive change. Handling dissatisfactions also requires a deep understanding of timing. Sometimes, even if we're handling a complaint calmly and thoughtfully, the other person may not be in the right mindset to hear it. If you've had a frustrating day and feel like unloading your dissatisfaction about a project, but you know the person you're addressing is already stressed, it might be wise to wait for a better moment. This doesn't mean avoiding the issue, but approaching it when it can lead to a more productive and meaningful conversation. The Stoic principle of self-control teaches us that knowing when to speak is just as important as knowing what to say. As Epictetus reminds us, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This serves as a powerful reminder to listen, assess, and carefully choose the right time to address our concerns. In today's world, where everything seems immediate and people often react without much thought, learning to handle dissatisfactions and complaints with poise is a rare and valuable skill. It's easy to fire off an angry email, post a negative review, or make a snide comment, but these actions usually lead to more stress, conflict, and regret. By slowing down and thoughtfully considering how we express our frustrations, we protect our peace of mind and cultivate stronger relationships with those around us. Have you ever noticed that when you vent about something small, it only increases your irritation rather than resolves it? That's because complaining without purpose is like adding fuel to a fire. It intensifies the problem instead of solving it. What would happen if, instead of complaining, you took a moment to breathe, reassess the situation, and approach it with a clear head? Let's apply this to a modern scenario. Imagine you've been working on a team project and one member hasn't been pulling their weight. Instead of stewing in frustration or making passive-aggressive comments, you decide to have a private conversation with that person. You ask questions to understand why they've been struggling, offer support, and focus on solutions rather than complaints. Not only does this approach show maturity and leadership, but it also creates a space where the person feels respected and more willing to make the necessary changes. This is the Stoic approach in action, using reason and patience to turn dissatisfaction into growth rather than conflict. Smart handling of dissatisfactions or personal complaints is not about suppressing your feelings or ignoring problems. It's about expressing those feelings in a way that leads to resolution and growth, rather than further frustration and resentment. By practicing self-control, focusing on solutions, and choosing the right time to express concerns, we create an environment where complaints are not sources of conflict, but opportunities for improvement. As Marcus Aurelius so wisely said, "Reject your sense of injury, and the injury itself disappears." This powerful insight teaches us that much of our dissatisfaction comes not from the situation itself, but from how we interpret and react to it. The next time you feel the urge to complain, ask yourself, how can I turn this frustration into a productive conversation? How can I use this moment to build, rather than break my relationships and mindset? In doing so, you not only handle complaints more effectively, but you also lead a life of greater peace and purpose. If you've made it this far, you're truly dedicated to understanding the wisdom of Stoicism. Drop a comment saying, "I seek wisdom," to show you're committed to this journey of self-growth. Stick around, there's much more to discover. Number 11. Confidential information about others. Another important psychological fact about people, and one that often goes unnoticed, is how we handle confidential information about others. Trust is the foundation of any meaningful relationship, and when someone confides in you, whether it's personal details, professional secrets, or any other sensitive information, how you handle that trust speaks volumes about your character. When we fail to guard the confidential information of others, we not only risk damaging the relationships we have, but also hurt our own credibility. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This powerful insight reminds us of the importance of being careful with what we say and mindful of how we handle the secrets entrusted to us. Sharing confidential information can seem harmless in the moment, but once those words leave our mouths, we lose control over them. The damage, however unintentional, can be lasting. In modern life, where the lines between personal and professional spaces often blur, handling confidential information with care has become even more crucial. Take the workplace, for example. You might hear gossip about a colleague's upcoming promotion or be privy to sensitive business decisions. The temptation to share this information with others can be strong, especially if you think it might give you social leverage or make you appear in the know. But consider this. If you are willing to share someone else's confidential information, what does that say about how trustworthy you are? It not only undermines your professional reputation, but also creates an environment of mistrust. Once people see you as someone who can't be trusted to keep a secret, it becomes difficult to build or maintain strong, reliable relationships. In fact, Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of self-control when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This teaches us that true power comes from our ability to control what we say and how we act, especially when it comes to handling the sensitive details of others' lives. Think about your personal life. How many times have you confided in a friend, only to find out later that they shared your secret with others? The sense of betrayal can be deep and lasting, often causing irreparable damage to the relationship. We've all experienced situations where we needed someone to talk to, someone who we could trust with our most vulnerable thoughts. When that trust is broken, it feels like a personal attack on our sense of safety and security. Now reverse the situation. Have you ever shared something you were asked to keep private? Maybe it was in a casual conversation, or perhaps you didn't think it was that big of a deal at the time. But for the person who trusted you, it was. When we reveal someone else's confidential information, we take away their control over their own narrative and decisions. This is why discretion is such a valuable quality, both in our personal and professional lives. Now, let's bring this concept into modern society, particularly in the age of social media. It's never been easier to share information, whether it's through a post, tweet, or message. But with this ease of sharing comes a greater responsibility to protect what is private. How often do we see people airing their personal grievances or disclosing private information online, sometimes without even realizing the potential consequences? In a world where information spreads rapidly and permanently, what may seem like a small breach of confidentiality can quickly escalate. The consequences of oversharing, whether it's your own information or someone else's, can lead to embarrassment, damaged relationships, and even legal issues. Seneca reminds us, "If you wish to be loved, love." In the same way, if you wish to be trusted, act trustworthy. This means taking extra care to protect the personal and confidential information entrusted to you, especially in an age where privacy is often sacrificed for attention or validation. Let's consider a real-life example. A close friend comes to you with a personal problem. Perhaps they're going through a difficult breakup, facing financial issues, or dealing with a health scare. They confide in you because they trust you. Now imagine later that day, in a casual conversation with mutual friends, you mention this information, thinking it's no big deal or that it won't get back to them. But it does. Your friend hears about it and feels hurt, betrayed, and exposed. That moment of trust is shattered, and no amount of apologies can undo the breach. On the flip side, when you protect that confidential information, you not only maintain the trust of that friend, but also show them that you value and respect their privacy. It strengthens the bond between you, creating a sense of loyalty and mutual respect. Handling confidential information with care isn't just about keeping secrets, it's about honoring the trust others place in you. It's about showing respect for their right to decide when, how, and with whom they share their personal details. So, the next time someone confides in you, pause and think about the responsibility you now hold. Ask yourself, am I worthy of their trust? How would I feel if the roles were reversed? By approaching confidential information with this mindset, you build stronger, deeper connections and create a reputation as someone who can be relied upon, no matter the situation. Here's a question for you. How often do you think about the responsibility that comes with being trusted with someone else's confidential information? And when faced with the temptation to share, do you reflect on the long-term consequences, not just for them, but for your own integrity? These are important reflections, especially in a world where privacy is becoming increasingly hard to protect. The Stoics remind us that our actions are reflections of our inner character. As Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." This means acting with honor, discretion, and trustworthiness at all times. Handling confidential information is a serious responsibility that requires discipline, respect, and integrity. The way we handle someone's private details reveals much about who we are and how we value the people in our lives. By protecting their secrets, we not only safeguard our relationships but also build a reputation for being reliable and trustworthy. The next time you are entrusted with confidential information, remember the Stoic wisdom of controlling your actions and reactions. Choose to act in a way that honors both the trust placed in you and your own integrity. In doing so, you create a foundation of respect that strengthens every relationship you are part of. Number 12. People overlook body language. While we often focus on what people say, the truth is that a huge portion of communication happens nonverbally. In fact, some studies suggest that up to 70% of human communication is conveyed through body language. Our gestures, facial expressions, posture, and even the way we use space. Yet, so many people overlook the significance of body language in daily interactions, often missing the subtle signals that can tell us so much more than words ever could. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This quote perfectly captures the idea that our inner thoughts and feelings inevitably manifest in our physical demeanor, whether we realize it or not. Understanding and reading body language, then, is like gaining access to another layer of truth in human interaction. How often do you find yourself in a conversation where the words being spoken don't quite match what you're seeing? Maybe the person says they're fine, but their crossed arms and tense shoulders suggest otherwise. This is a prime example of how body language can reveal deeper truths about what someone is feeling, even when their words don't. And it's not just about understanding others. Being aware of your own body language can help you communicate more effectively and build stronger connections. For instance, maintaining eye contact, keeping an open posture, and using natural gestures can make you appear more confident and trustworthy. Conversely, slouching, avoiding eye contact, or fidgeting can signal nervousness, discomfort, or even dishonesty, whether you intend to project those feelings or not. In modern life, where so much communication happens through digital platforms, we've become even more disconnected from the power of body language. On social media or during text conversations, we miss out on the crucial nonverbal cues that give context to words. This can lead to misunderstandings, as the tone and intent behind a message become harder to decipher. However, in face-to-face interactions, body language remains an undeniable force in shaping how others perceive us and how we perceive them. Have you ever been in a meeting or social gathering where someone's body language was so dominant that it changed the entire atmosphere? Perhaps a person walked into the room with an air of confidence, standing tall, making eye contact with everyone, and immediately commanded attention. Or maybe you noticed someone standing off to the side, arms crossed, signaling they felt out of place or uninterested. These nonverbal signals often speak louder than words, influencing how others respond to us. Let's consider a real-life example. Think about job interviews. We spend so much time preparing what to say, but interviewers often make decisions based on nonverbal cues within the first few minutes. Walking into the room with good posture, offering a firm handshake, and maintaining eye contact can make a powerful first impression. On the flip side, slouching, fidgeting, or avoiding eye contact can create doubt, even if your answers to the questions are strong. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This applies to body language as well. Sometimes we're so focused on the content of what we say that we forget how much our body is communicating for us, and the anxiety we feel inside can show up in ways we don't intend. Becoming aware of this can help you align your verbal and nonverbal communication, making sure you're sending the message you truly want to send. Another example of how body language plays a crucial role is in relationships. Whether it's with a romantic partner, family member, or friend, the way we communicate through our body language can strengthen or weaken the bond. Think about a disagreement you might have had with a loved one. You might have said all the right words, but if your arms were crossed or your tone was sharp, the message they received could have been very different from what you intended. Likewise, when someone else is upset or stressed, their body language often tells the story before they say a single word. Learning to read these cues can help you respond with more empathy and understanding, deepening your connection and resolving conflicts more smoothly. In relationships, it's not just about what you say, but how you say it. And body language is a big part of that. How? Here's an open-ended question for you. How often do you pay attention to your own body language or the body language of those around you? Most people are so caught up in words that they miss out on this entire layer of communication. But what would happen if you became more attuned to these nonverbal signals? You'd likely gain a deeper understanding of the people you interact with, and you'd also be able to communicate more clearly and effectively. It's worth considering. How might improving your awareness of body language positively impact your personal and professional relationships? In today's digital age, it's easy to forget the importance of nonverbal communication. With so much of our interaction happening through screens, we lose out on the richness of face-to-face conversations where body language plays a key role. However, when we do engage in person, paying attention to these nonverbal cues becomes even more crucial. A handshake, a nod, or even the way someone positions their feet during a conversation can tell you volumes about their feelings and intentions. These subtle signs can help you navigate social situations more effectively, whether you're networking, negotiating, or simply having a casual conversation. The Stoics teach us to observe the world carefully, to see beyond what is immediately obvious. And body language is a perfect example of this principle in action. It's about seeing beyond the words and understanding the full picture of human interaction. Body language is an often overlooked but vital component of communication. It provides us with insight into others' true feelings and helps us convey our own emotions more clearly. By becoming more aware of how you present yourself and how others present themselves to you, you can strengthen your relationships, avoid misunderstandings, and communicate more effectively. As Epictetus said, "First learn the meaning of what you say and then speak." This applies not just to verbal communication, but also to the language your body speaks. The next time you're in a conversation, pay attention to the signals being sent without words. They may reveal more than you think. Number 13. Emotions drive decisions. One of the most powerful and often underestimated forces in human behavior is how emotions drive decisions. No matter how logical or rational we believe ourselves to be, emotions play a far larger role in our choices than we may realize. Whether it's a business decision, a relationship choice, or even something as simple as what to eat for dinner, emotions often sit at the wheel, steering us in directions we don't always expect. As Stoics, we are taught to observe our emotions and recognize their influence without being controlled by them. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This quote speaks directly to the importance of mastering our emotions, because how we think and feel often determines the actions we take. Understanding the psychological fact that emotions drive decisions is the first step in learning to manage this influence wisely. Consider a scenario from everyday life. A person who's just had a stressful day at work might make impulsive decisions, whether it's snapping at a loved one, making an unnecessary purchase, or indulging in unhealthy habits. Why? Because stress is driving their actions rather than reason or long-term thinking. This is a common occurrence, one we've all experienced. The Stoic approach, however, teaches us to pause and assess our emotional state before making decisions, ensuring that we act based on logic rather than impulse. Epictetus reminded us of this when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Recognizing when emotions are clouding your judgment is the key to regaining control and making decisions that align with your values and goals, rather than fleeting feelings. In modern life, where we're constantly bombarded by information, advertising, and social media, our emotions are manipulated more than we realize. Think about how marketing works. Advertisements don't just present facts about a product. They aim to evoke emotions, whether it's making you feel like you need a certain lifestyle or that a purchase will bring you happiness. This emotional manipulation drives consumer behavior. You might have gone shopping after a rough week and ended up buying things you didn't need, simply because the act of purchasing gave you a temporary sense of relief. But what happens after the emotional high fades? You're left with items that may not align with your long-term needs or goals, and possibly regret the decision. This is a prime example of emotions driving decisions, and it's why Stoicism encourages mindfulness and self-control, so we can rise above emotional impulses and act with intention. Another place where emotions often drive decisions is in relationships. Whether it's friendships, family dynamics, or romantic partnerships, emotions have a way of steering our choices in ways that can either strengthen or harm these connections. For example, when anger flares up during an argument, it's easy to say things we don't mean, make hasty decisions, or even end relationships that might have been salvageable. But once the anger subsides, we often regret those decisions. The Stoic philosophy offers a way to prevent such emotional outbursts from leading to irreversible actions. As Seneca said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." By understanding that emotions like anger or jealousy are temporary and should not dictate our actions, we can make decisions that are rooted in reason and long-term benefit, rather than short-term emotional reactions. Here's an open-ended question to consider. How often do you reflect on the emotional state you were in when you made a significant decision? Were you calm, rational, and in control? Or were you being led by emotions like fear, anger, or excitement? Recognizing the role emotions play in decision-making is crucial because it allows you to step back and assess whether those decisions truly align with your values or if they're just reactions to a temporary feeling. The more aware you are of your emotional state, the better equipped you are to make thoughtful, intentional decisions that serve your long-term well-being. In today's fast-paced world, emotions can flare up quickly, whether it's from a stressful day, a heated political debate, or even a bad interaction with a stranger. When we allow those emotions to guide our decisions, we're essentially handing over control to something that's fleeting. But Stoicism teaches us to recognize this and practice restraint. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is about reclaiming that power, learning to manage your emotional responses so that they don't drive decisions that lead to regret. Let's take a more specific modern example: financial decisions. Whether it's investing, saving, or making a major purchase, emotions can heavily influence how we handle our money. Fear might push someone to sell stocks prematurely during a market dip, or excitement could lead to risky investments without proper research. Both fear and excitement are emotions that, when unchecked, can result in poor financial decisions. Recognizing when emotions like greed, fear, or impatience are influencing your financial choices allows you to take a step back, reassess, and make decisions based on facts and long-term thinking, rather than emotional highs or lows. This is exactly the kind of self-control that Stoic philosophy encourages us to cultivate. But emotional decision-making isn't always negative. Positive emotions, such as love or compassion, can drive us to make decisions that are generous and kind. The key, however, is balance. Even positive emotions, when untempered, can lead to decisions that aren't sustainable or beneficial in the long run. For instance, helping a friend in need is noble, but if done without consideration for your own well-being or boundaries, it can lead to burnout or resentment. Stoicism teaches us to find a middle ground where we act with kindness and generosity, but also with wisdom and self-awareness. As Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This means aligning your decisions with your true values, not just your immediate emotional state. Emotions are an inevitable and powerful part of life. They give richness to our experiences, but they can also cloud our judgment if left unchecked. The Stoic approach is not about suppressing emotions, but about understanding them, recognizing their influence, and ensuring that they don't steer us away from our true path. By learning to observe our emotions and pause before making decisions, we gain control over our lives in a way that leads to more thoughtful, deliberate actions. The next time you're faced with a big decision, ask yourself, is this choice being driven by my emotions or by my reason? In doing so, you align yourself with the Stoic principles of wisdom, self-discipline, and inner strength, allowing you to make decisions that serve your highest good. As we come to the end of this video, The key takeaway is clear. Understanding these 13 psychological facts about people helps us navigate life with greater wisdom and insight. By applying Stoic principles, we can control our emotions, make better decisions, and strengthen our relationships. Remember, the true power lies in mastering your mind and actions, not in controlling the external world. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stoic in Your Life. And make sure to turn on notifications so you won't miss our upcoming videos, where we continue exploring Stoic wisdom to enrich your daily life. Thank you for watching.